Hi everyone. So I wrote an article last November about translation and AI in translation, and a translator left this comment on my article, and honestly, I think they're right. So let's talk about this. As a translator, Japanese to English, I personally found your article, particularly the part about translation work, following the popular narrative of how AI technology is the best thing that could happen to translators. That's probably true to some extent about the article. Glorifying translators as some kind of cultural ambassadors does nothing to underscore the fact that the income of translators has been greatly impacted. This is 100% true. The article is quite silent about what is happening in terms of bringing money back. She ends it by saying, everyone says with AI doing the translation work, it will allow translators to focus on higher order work, but no one tells how much translators are getting paid for such higher order work. I think this is very valid. Essentially, what she's saying is everyone says let AI lets translators focus on the high quality work, but no one really talks about the income collapse that's happening. I think that's we simply have to admit that is the reality, right? You can't run away from this fact. There's two things that I wanted to talk about. The first is we need to stop pretending that AI translation has been universally good for translators, right? Productivity has gone up, and a lot of edge cases where it wasn't worth getting it translated because it was too expensive and so things didn't get translated, those are now getting translated. These are all good things, but the fact of the matter is rates for translation work have absolutely plummeted. And if you're a translator and this is your job and you've trained for it and you're good for it, that really sucks for you. Right. So people are getting impacted by this. And I think it's a more general issue with across AI, but let's stay focused on this. If one translator using AI can now do the work of 5 translators from 2019, the market changes. I'm not saying that's the actual metric. I'm just saying that even if you said one translator, and now that one translator uses AI and therefore they can do the work of 5 translators, that means the market has changed and people are getting paid less, at the very least, those 5 translators in that work. I think the work of the translator has also changed. So it's gone from being the person manually translating everything to being the person using tools to do the translation. I think where it's going to end up, and I don't have the exact answer to this, but it's about compute allocation, right? So let's say the AI can translate 95% of a product manual. Maybe you need the human to translate the 5%, but the translator's job is watching over the AI and allocating compute based on the translation project. What does that mean practically? And the answer is, let me give you an analogy. I write software. I used to write software by typing out the software, and now I write a really big prompt, which then tells the AI what to build for me, right? So I've gone from being a programmer to being a compute allocator in terms of what I'm doing with my time. My guess is something similar will happen with translators. I'm not saying the tools exist yet to allow them to do that. And I'm not saying that this is a good thing at the moment. And to her point, clearly, ordinary translators are being paid less, and this sucks massively if you happen to be in that position. But I think if I was to look at a longer term view, now what does compute allocator in the translation space look like? Again, I don't really know the answer to that question. But if I'm looking at it, there's going to be two aspects to it. There's going to be, here's a translation task. Is it worth doing into this language? Right. And what I mean by that is, if here is a piece of software, should we build this feature into that? That's that taste as a moat kind of concept. And then you sit there and go, okay, this 5% isn't really machine translatable nicely. The human does it themselves, which is kind of similar, where you look at some code and you go, the AI has done this really badly, and then you tell the AI to do it again in a different way. And instead of using a skill for that, you might prompt it, right? So that's what I think is practically going to happen. So when we talk about higher order work and what they're getting paid for, like let's say you have a YouTube channel, right? And then let's say you've got a translator who's like, this YouTube channel would work really well in this other language because the creator doesn't know that there's a market for this in some language, but I, as the translator, know that there is, and therefore I'm going to then go and translate that, right? So then the translator spends their compute translating this YouTube channel. Okay, cool. But then we don't currently have the pieces where the rights of the translator are protected, so they get paid off the back of the traction, their translation, and their, editing of the video or whatever gets you an outcome, right? So we don't have, for example, some kind of Web3 video piece where if I've made the video, I make it available to anyone to translate, and then if they translate, they get some revenue off the back of that. I, as the original creator of the video, also pick up some revenue, right? Like those pieces don't exist. So I'm not minimizing the piece of the immediate impact on the income that the translator is having. Like it's a very legit comment, and Meera Rajamani, I think she's Indian, just from that name. But yeah, that's what I think that higher order work looks like. Though how you're going to get paid for that higher order work, again, I think a lot of those pieces have not yet been built. I don't think translators are disappearing. I think translation services is a coordination problem. The people who make it won't necessarily be the fastest translators. They'll be the ones who sort of understand what is worth translating. And also it's a timing issue because we need some sort of product where you can have a video, but then the rights to translating that are pretty much open and anyone can translate that. And because anyone can translate that, translators can make money off their translations, but then a portion of that money goes back to the original creator, almost like a translation curation plus compute allocation, plus the translator has their own platform kind of problem. And this is what makes it a naughty complex problem, which is probably why we don't have a good solution to this yet. But yeah, just thought I'd try and answer that. I'm not sure I've done a great job, but those were my thoughts. I think compute allocator is one big part of it. But yeah, thanks for listening. I hope that was useful to you.